Good afternoon, and welcome again to Keep Calm and Man Up. Today we're relaxing, and just in our local park. Relaxing is actually something that was commanded by God, and it was called the Sabbath. When He created earth, on the seventh day He rested. In Deuteronomy, Exodus, and various other books of the Bible, He tells us that we have to honor the Sabbath day and we have to rest and use it to honor God, thank Him for everything He's done for us, and just honor it with worship and praise. So this week we're talking about the Sabbath, weekend, holy day. Enjoy.
What is the Sabbath? The Sabbath is a day of rest and worship, set apart by God in the biblical tradition. The concept itself originates in Genesis 2:2-3, where after completing His creation of the universe, God rests, blessing and sanctifying it. The Sabbath is a replication of this model for humans to imitate God's own rest, though it was also commanded to by God. Different religions celebrate the Sabbath on different days. In Judaism, for example, it is observed on Saturday from sunset on the Friday night to nightfall on Sunday. Christianity has evolved the Sabbath into the Lord's Day, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ on a Sunday. Some groups, such as Seventh-day Adventists, continue to observe the Sabbath on Saturday, similar to Jewish customs. Muslims don't recognize Sabbath for its Jewish roots, but they have Friday as a day of prayer, called Jumu'ah. The Quran mentions the Sabbath in reference to the Jewish people in Surah Nahl, verse 124, where it emphasizes it is for Jewish people, not for them. And Sikhs do not have a specific day each week, but gurus emphasize that any day that is set aside for rest and meditating on God is a blessed day. We need to follow the Sabbath because God Himself commanded it. Deuteronomy 5:15 states, "Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day." The verse recalls Israel's experience as slaves in Egypt, highlighting the harshness of bondage and the lack of rest they endured. This memory serves as a foundation for understanding the Sabbath as a day of rest, not just from labor, but as a spiritual practice rooted in freedom. When we think of their time in Egypt, we must make the distinction between the Passover and Sabbath. The Sabbath is a weekly day of rest, while the Passover commemorates Israel's deliverance from Egypt and the last plague where the oldest son of every Egyptian family was killed as God passed over Egypt. From a theological perspective, God's mighty hand and outstretched arm emphasizes that deliverance was entirely His work, demonstrating His power, covenant love, and faithfulness. Observing the Sabbath becomes an act of gratitude and acknowledgement of God's saving work, reinforcing humility and dependence on Him. By linking the Sabbath to freedom from slavery, the verse encourages compassion and justice. Just as God freed Israel, the Sabbath ensures that servants, animals, and even strangers within the community receive rest, reflecting God's care for all. During and leading up the American Civil War, those that were in bondage were able to have this day of rest each week. As time and world has moved on, people have lost respect for this, one of God's commands. The problem is, this does not allow the true blessing to show in your life. You become perpetually tired, which affects your next work week as well as other attributes that will be discussed later. The Sabbath is both a weekly reminder of God's past deliverance and a symbol of ultimate rest in His salvation. In Christian interpretation, it also points forward to the ultimate redemption through Jesus Christ, who brings eternal rest and freedom from spiritual bondage. Deuteronomy 5:15 ultimately teaches that remembering God's deliverance is central to Sabbath observance. It combines historical memory, gratitude, social justice, and spiritual reflection, making the Sabbath a living testimony of God's power, mercy, and covenant relationship with His people. So, what happens if we don't observe the Sabbath? Remember, this is a direct command by God. Non-believers will not give it a second thought, though in many ways they still, on the whole, have a more relaxed Sunday. But for believers, choosing to ignore the Sabbath is a deliberate disobedience to God and a missed opportunity for spiritual growth. Is God not bigger than us? The creator of the universe, who has all the answers, might just know what we need more than we do. Obeying God might allow him to work inside you, to provide answers to nagging questions, strength to enable you to finish what is needed, and finally enable you to be the father, husband, or boyfriend to your closest family members. The Sabbath is a sacred day of rest, rooted in creation and the covenant that is designed to honor God, refresh humanity, and foster community. While its observance on a religious level is designed for believers, its rest principle benefits all who value or seek balance, renewal, and time for what truly matters. So, can non-believers benefit from the Sabbath? The simple answer is yes. Being a non-believer doesn't exempt you from gaining from God's blessing. God created us all in his image and loves us all. Non-believers are those who have chosen not to contemplate God's existence. They don't receive the whole benefit of his love because they chose not to have a relationship with his Son, Jesus Christ. Those benefits are lived by those who have surrendered totally to Jesus Christ. Non-believers do still utilize days to rest. This physical and mental rest prevents burnout. It also provides a time for personal reflection, time for the family, and being part of your community. Non-believers can adopt a rest principle without adhering to its religious framework, gaining health, productivity, and peace. One question I was asked a while ago by a non-believer was that if the Sabbath was important for God and he created everything, why do only people observe it? I would argue that the world represents the Sabbath in other ways. In agriculture, fields will provide good crops for 6 years, but need to rest for the 7th. Farmers have seen that by leaving the ground fallow, or just for grazing, for that 7th year enables the minerals in the ground to replenish and be ready for a new cycle. Non-believers do consider Mother Earth or Gaia rather than the world being God created. While I don't believe in this personally, I think it is important when discussing this subject to look at alternative viewpoints and where they line up against the Sabbath as a sacred commandment from God. The Omnisanctuary does recognize the spiritual connection between humans and Mother Earth, even going as far as saying that while the Sabbath rhythm was woven into creation itself, citing Genesis 2:1-3, the Earth's cycles remind us to pause, reflect, and renew, much the same as the Sabbath invites us to stop from the ordinary and turn towards God's presence. Mother Earth can be seen as a living reflection of the Sabbath. From a biblical perspective, let us look closer at the first Sabbath. The first Sabbath is described in the biblical creation narrative, as previously mentioned. God created the world in 6 days and chose to rest on the 7th, marking it as a day of rest and holiness. This establishes a pattern for rest that is foundational in both Judaism and Christianity. Observance of the Sabbath was the 4th of the 10 Commandments. Exodus 20:8-10 states, "Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor, and do all your work, 10, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God." The first observance of the Sabbath is traditionally linked to the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. This served as a reminder of both creation and the liberation of the Israelites from slavery. Isaiah 58:13-14 says, "If you turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight." This highlights the Sabbath as a day of joy and one where we can reflect the work God has done in our lives. Mark 2:27 tells us the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. This shows us clearly that the Sabbath is for human benefit, for rest and restoration, not a burdensome rule. Luke 4:16 shows us Jesus' practice of honoring the Sabbath through worship, saying he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went to the synagogue as was his custom. John 14:15 says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." This not only shows Jesus showing his disciples that he was God, but also the importance of his commandments. Mark 2:27 states clearly, "The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath." This shows that the Sabbath day is a gift from God to be used for his benefit. Breaking the Sabbath is a sin as much as the other 9 commandments. Jesus stated clearly the importance of keeping all commandments in Matthew 5:17-19, saying, "Verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Let us consider the other commandments and how we view people if they are broken. "You shall have no other gods before me." The first and most powerful commandment, as God is jealous and wants you to look to him and no one else. This is one where he will judge your actions. Even though the modern world provides choices, don't be fooled. "You shall not make for yourself a carved image." False idols are anything we put in place of God. Television, phones, tablets, drugs. The list is endless, but less time in these false idols and spending more time in God's word is always special and leads to success. "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain." Until recently, blasphemy and potty mouth language was deeply frowned upon. Society sadly accepts it as the norm, but good people seldom resort to profanity. "Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy." Here we are sitting at the high spot of number 4. Like a few previous commandments, the world ignores its importance at its peril. "Honor your father and mother." Generationally, this has been dropping off, but typically in Christian homes, this honor is prevalent. Non-believing homes are often filled with discord and discontent because they are not following God's will. "You shall not murder." This is still a crime that should bring horror to most. However, there is evil corrupting the world that sadly shows murder of citizens being the norm by illegal aliens breaking the law. "You shall not commit adultery." We have covered faithfulness in relationships in other episodes, but this is a sin against God, not just your partner. "You shall not steal." This is still a crime that people see as damaging in today's society. Sadly, drug use in society has seen rise in theft, to the extent that people are getting hardened to the dark side of life. "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." False accusations are still held up in a court of law, and good people are known by how they keep their word. "You shall not covet," last but definitely not the least. At some point in our lives, we have all fallen short on this one. I always wanted a jet ski and still look, longingly, at those who have them when I am by the water. I know I will never have one, as the needs of my family come first. They save me from this sin in a way. I have listed the 10 commandments because following the Sabbath is one of them. The world is sadly normalizing the breaking of these, but God doesn't. He will always be who he has always been, never changing, and that means his commandments too. The commandments show we need Jesus because we cannot fulfill the commandments without him. This weekend, enjoy the Sabbath, enjoy the family, and thank God for all he has done in your life. He created us to enjoy what he has given us.
As you can see, the Sabbath is important to God. We need to rest. We need to revitalize ourselves. Our families need us to do it as well, or else we become grouchy. Next week, make sure that you spend the weekend with your family, spend time to relax, rest, and enjoy every blessing God has put in your life. And think about them because he's put a lot in there, even those you don't know about. So until next week, keep calm, man up, bless God, and rest on the Sabbath. Good afternoon, and welcome again to Keep Calm and Man Up. Today we're relaxing, and just in our local park. Relaxing is actually something that was commanded by God, and it was called the Sabbath. When he created earth, on the seventh day he rested. In Deuteronomy, Exodus, and various other books of the Bible, he tells us that we have to honor the Sabbath day, and we have to rest and use it to honor God, thank him for everything he's done for us, and just honor it with worship and praise. So this week we're talking about the Sabbath, weekend, holy day. Enjoy.